Yep, great. Thanks, Amber.
Great. Welcome, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Amber, and I am a workforce advisor with Community Futures Entre-Corp here in Medicine Hat. I do serve the Southeast region, and a little bit of my role is to help create awareness of some of the programs and services that are offered that help support workforce. So today I'm really excited to learn and hear from REDI on the vital role that they play in supporting the workforce. I did sit down and have a one-to-one with Mark and some of the team, and I learned a ton that I would have never known before. So I hope everybody gets a little bit of insight here today. Representing REDI, you've got Mark, Robin, and Brenda. They're all job developers with REDI, who work tirelessly to bridge the gap between employers and job seekers. Today will share how REDI supports hiring and retention efforts and provide some real life scenarios that showcase how inclusive hiring practices make a difference in your workforce and the community that we serve. And at the end of the presentation, my good friend Clayton will, with the Government of Alberta Workforce Consultant, will do the Q&A to make sure that any questions that we have at the end get addressed. And then before we begin, I do want to acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, which includes Kainai, Piikani, and the Siksika Nations. This land is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3, and we recognize and deeply respect the ongoing connection the Indigenous people have with this land. So warm welcome to Mark, Robin, and Brenda from REDI Enterprises, and thank you guys so much for joining us. Just a heads up, if you are here listening and to the presentation, I am going to mute you and turn your cameras off, just so there's no distraction before they get started. But please just put your hand up, hold questions for the end, and we will make sure that we get to them, and we'll turn your stuff back on for you. All right.
Sorry, did you say to put their questions in the chat, just so that that's clear?
They could put it in the chat for sure ahead, and then Clayton could run through them if that's what you prefer, for sure, Clayton.
Yeah, just as they come up, you can put them in the chat, and then we'll run through them at the end.
Great. Well, thanks very much for the warm welcome, Amber. We'll get started right away here. So this presentation is focused around inclusive employment, and we're with REDI Enterprises Society. We've got a nice little graphic here of our paper airplane. That's our branding. You might see it on the side of our building.
I'm Brenda, this is Mark, and Robin. Amber said we are job developers with REDI, and we're about rehabilitation and employment for developing independence.
So let's take a moment and start with a story. I'd like everyone to start and think about your first job. Think about that day you got hired. How old were you? What were you eager to purchase? How did you feel when you received that first check? I know when I go back to that day, I'm overwhelmed. Now, imagine that day didn't come until you were potentially in your 20s, 30s, or even 40s. That's a reality for some of the people that we support, is those opportunities come much later in life.
Right. So for the presentation today, we have some short time together. I wanted to talk a little bit about what we were going to be discussing. So first of all, we're going to go through an overview of REDI and our program specifics. We will talk about inclusive employment in business, as Amber had alluded to start. And we're also going to provide some examples of those who make it happen, per se. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge that we're delighted to be representing an organization that encourages us to share expertise with community stakeholders. It's extremely important for the networking and development that we have and the job developing role that we all do together to be able to put ourselves out there, and to be supported in that is invaluable.
Within our organization, we have a powerful mission statement, and we exist to assist individuals to obtain respect, opportunity, and responsibility. Within REDI, we do have 4 service delivery areas: REDI Lives, REDI Connects, BERS, and our 4th division, and the focus of today's presentation is REDI Works.
And so you might be wondering, so REDI Works, we support individuals with a variety of interests, skills, and abilities to secure and maintain employment. Our ultimate goal is to find employers with strong workplace cultures that are equal and inclusive. And we seek partnerships for those employers to help support individuals to find employment within those areas. I wanted to start and talk a little bit about where Canada is right now. So I think we're all business professionals here in this room. We all understand that Medicine Hat is a unique labor market, but we do find ourselves governed by some of the details that we have here in the Canadian market. So you're starting off here, Brenda.
According to the stats, Canada, 1 in 5 working age Canadians live with a disability. That's 3.2 million workers.
And with that, the unemployment rate for individuals living with disability is 52.9%, so almost 53%. And it does increase to 80% for those living with intellectual disabilities. So that's pulled directly from Statistics Canada and the Department of Justice. So what does that mean? So of the 80% of individuals living with intellectual disabilities that aren't employed, let's talk a little bit about economic participation. So think of ourselves as consumers. We're out in the community. We're spending money in Medicine Hat in Brooks area. We are reliant on the income that we have to make choices. We're reliant on the income we have to facilitate our hobbies, our interests, our needs. Right? It's not just simply fulfilling our food and housing requirements. Right? We're trying to gather the things that we need and want to do on a daily basis. And so if you don't find yourself being able to participate economically, right, you're just being supported by government assistance, it looks a lot different than somebody who can go out and actually make choices on what they can do and what they can have. So I like to think about that a little bit too. And with that, some personal identity about being a job seeker. So all of us here, like I said, are working professionals. And how many times in conversation does it come up what you do, right? It's typically the first or second thing that we talk about, right? Where we're from, what we do, right? So if you think about attaching the stigma of not being able to say what you do or not being able to have anything to say in a conversation there, it looks a lot different. And also, how do we feel when somebody says that they're unemployed, right? What's the first place that we go to when we talk about unemployment, right? Is it systematic barriers that are working against us? Or is it other details like possibly motivation and other things that are we can control ourselves? So I want to talk a little bit about that's such a big part too of being employed, and we need to keep that in mind when we're putting that in that lens.
Because it really is negative what comes across people's minds frequently about why someone's not working.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
100%. Yeah. And typically we aren't informed. We don't have all the information to know, what's going on behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's something to keep in mind anyways. I wanted to talk a little bit about some room to grow as well. So if we have employment rates among working age Canadians in a percentage, right? So on the very left, we have individuals living without disability. In the middle, we have individuals living with any type of disability. And then on the far right, we have individuals living with a developmental disability. And so we'll take a moment to evaluate the disparity here, right? So over here on the left, right, we have about a 68% employment rate of individuals living without disability. You basically cut that by 2/3, or even more so for individuals living with a developmental disability. And this provides a really powerful visual statement to show people that when you have more barriers, it's lower, it's going down. And then eventually we get to this category, right? And roughly only 20% of the individuals living with developmental disabilities in Canada are employed. So something to think about there. And with that, we have other considerations. The percentage of projected workforce losses in Canada by 2035. So in a short 10 years from now, right? Think about 2015. 2015 does not feel like 10 years ago, but it is. That's the reality of the situation. For the Conference Board of Canada, we're projected to lose another 25% of the workforce by 2035, right? Whether or not that's aging workforce, whether or not that's artificial intelligence, whether or not that's other efficiencies that are being built or cost-cutting measures by businesses, right? If you're already reducing the workforce by another 25%, and you're already starting with a low number of 20% employment, what is that going to say, right? How can we pour from an empty cup?
Absolutely.
Right. So it's something that we want to put in at the forefront of our brain.
Hey, Mark, before we move on to this next part where we're talking a little more about our services and what we provide, I think it's important that we go back to that story we started in the beginning. So in the beginning, I asked everyone to think about that first job that they had, how that felt and what they did. I want to tell you about a really incredible experience that we had the opportunity to have with one of the individuals that we support. So we went to a job interview now with this gentleman. Now, this gentleman had volunteered in the community. He'd been part of volunteering for sports and things through the Medicine Hat College. He had devoted countless hours to serving his community, and nobody would provide a job for him. His opportunities fell short every single time until this one day we went and into this incredible job interview with a wonderful employer. His name was Kevin. And as Kevin walked through this interview and finally said yes, this gentleman wept. A grown man in his 20s, finally experiencing an opportunity to work and gain his first paycheck. I think it's really important to remember how valuable that experience is, because it's not just about the check and the things you can buy, though those are huge pieces to it. It's also about that piece of somebody believes that I'm worth it. Somebody believes that I can be a part of something. And the tears that flew that day, they weren't just from him.
I was in the interview with this wonderful gentleman, and we got the call sitting in my car that he got the job. And I also started crying because he said somebody's willing to give me a chance, and it was absolutely wonderful.
And I think that that's a really big piece. It's about the opportunity there to see the value in another human being that I think is really the gift that is on the outside gift of supported employment. So I want to talk to you a little bit about our approach. So we're looking at supported employment. So the idea is to come in and create a space that is valuable to the business and to the individual that we're supporting. So this approach describes the support provided to persons with developmental disabilities to find, obtain, and maintain a paying job in a mainstream workforce. So it's really important, as Mark was mentioning earlier, to have that piece of identity. How do we introduce ourselves? So to be part of the mainstream workforce really has an incredible amount of value. We also adhere to a best practice. So the idea is that we do not support individuals higher than the support that they need. So there could be a full range of support to facilitate employment success, which we will talk about in a little bit here. And we are also looking to support the businesses to make sure that they have the tools needed to maintain an inclusive workforce. So
for employment, our main goal is to complement your business, not complicate it. We are very flexible. We have many casual, seasonal, short-term, long-term, permanent, part-time positions. We work with what your organization needs, and we accommodate with everybody. Permanent part-time jobs are absolutely ideal for our clientele.
So this is also adaptable based on the individual and your business needs. So frequently we hear things like, oh, I don't have anything, or, oh, well, we're looking at this, but I need somebody full-time. So the beauty of working with supported employment is the ability to job carve. So taking those roles and potentially splitting up one full-time position to help 2 or even 3 individuals in the workplace. However, it could be those side of the desk jobs. So it's an opportunity to think outside the box. This isn't a secret. I don't like paperwork, right? And please put in the chat here. So what are some of those things that are part of your role that you have to do every single day that you wish somebody was there to support you in? For me, I wish data entry. That would be great. What are some of the things that you wish that you had someone to support, that you had some help with?
Well, I know some of the things that we've often had come up are some basic maintenance tasks, things that are a little bit more like they require a little bit more time, effort, and energy, but it isn't necessarily the right fit for person. Amber said data. That's a really good point too.
Yes, data entry. And, these are opportunities with all these little things that we maybe don't enjoy about our day. Someone else, it's a valuable opportunity to explore the workforce. We had an opportunity with bat houses, and this was many years ago with the Medicine Hat College. And someone said to us at that point, I don't really know that 3 hours a week is going to be valuable. Like, I don't think, I don't know, is this right or is this wrong? The gentleman that built those bad houses is still talking about it 8 years later as one of the greatest opportunities in his lifetime. So I think it's really important to think with grace. And if you need some help in that, that's part of what we're here for, is to help find those different opportunities and help you seek those opportunities within your business that we can complement them so your workflow runs more smoothly.
With that as well, we'd like to provide an example. One of our large community organizations that we deal with has actually worked with us to carve 52 paid positions in annual commitment. It's something that happens where it's like a large event that they do, and they require a lot of pre-work, some post-work, and some during the event work. And this is a really valuable part of employment for some of the individuals that we support as well, where they can be involved in something, and that it's the commitment looks just right for them in that moment. So.
Yeah, and a really great piece about that too is it allows their tradespeople, their trained tradespeople, to work on other tasks. So really, it's a great symbiotic relationship. I think everybody wins.
And we usually have a waiting list. The clients always sign up for the next year.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's a big thing.
Yeah. So let's talk about support. We talk about support through this whole thing, but what does that look like? So if an individual is a successful candidate for employment, REDI Works will provide on and off-site job coaching. So this may be hand over hand as we come into a business and help someone learn their duties and then slowly remove ourselves from that business. It might be learning to use a computer program that we would do off-site here in the office with someone, working on literacy skills, all kinds of employment essential skills, and task-specific skills that are required to complete a job. So the role of our staff will be to come in and analyze the job and what kind of supports the individual needs, as well as to see how we can support your business in working with these accommodations. So as an example of this, we had a young woman, again, with co-op working. And through this experience, when she started work, we were there for her entire shift, side by side, helping manage everything. And then slowly we worked off. So we were only there for a part of a shift, and then every second day, and then an hour maybe, and a phone check-in, to offsite supports that work really well moving forward. And then the benefit to the business through that is we help them develop a communication strategy to work with this individual that required a little bit of additional communication support. So they received that piece, and it turned out to be really great as far as their organization as a whole. It really evolves quite a bit. So whatever the individual and the business needs, that's where we try to meet. So I mentioned accommodations, so let's just talk about accommodations. For a lot of places, this is a scary word, right? Because naturally, a lot of times we're drawn to the thing that it requires money. However, 54% of the accommodations in the workplace do not cost anything, and 80% of those accommodations cost less than $500. So let's think about what accommodations you already have in your workplace. And, a lot of the times people say, oh, I don't have any accommodations, but glasses. If you look at your computer that you're sitting at, do you have a keyboard that has little legs to raise it or lower it? What does your mouse pad look like? Does your chair tilt? Does it go down? Do you have a drawer, sit and stand desk? What are these little things that you have to make yourself more comfortable? Even a fan. I have a fan. And that's an accommodation for me, right? And so I think that once we start looking at what people need, everybody needs something in the workforce, and we're all experiencing those accommodations every day. So we're excited to be able to work with you to see how we can tailor those accommodations, which are often very little, if none.
Yeah. And I think what it does is it starts with a discussion.
Absolutely.
Right. It starts with a discussion. It starts with a conversation. Being curious is really important.
For
So
sure.
I think that's something to think of. We've got some other examples there up on the screen. How many of us have ever offered a flexible work schedule? Parents, work from home, hybrid work.
Yeah.
We've talked about equipment, adjusting policies as well, holidays
Absolutely.
for a person's needs.
Yep.
Right. It's something that we can think
Sick
about.
time.
Sick time, absolutely.
You bet.
Right. Lots of things that we can do. And
And
those little things that we do are so important.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those things are already built into a lot of business policies. So just helping to bring them out and to access them, those things that are already there.
And most of them are simple, and they actually work for not just the client, but all employees as well. They find that one simple thing has changed the work environment,
Absolutely.
which is
The sit-stand desk changed my life.
Mhm. So I wanted to take some time to actually bring in some real life examples of some businesses that have made it happen. And the first one that I want to talk about is a gentleman by the name of Mark Wafer. So Mark Wafer owned 14 franchises in the Toronto area from Tim Hortons. And currently he's an advisor to the government and government of Ontario on accessibility standards. And he's responsible for Canada's National Disability Employment Strategy. Mark, he walked the walk. He championed inclusive employment. At his stores, over the time that he was an owner, over 200 people with disabilities were employed, and approximately 17% of them and 70% of his entire labor force at any given time lived with a disability. So something that he talks about it. There's a lot of information on him. There's a lot of bios and features on him online that talk about how he saw it as a real untapped workforce. That he had better retention statistics. He had other people that hadn't necessarily had the opportunity, like we've discussed, that he brought into his stores. And he had this great quote that just summarized exactly what we're trying to do as a social service agency. Every day I go to work and I've got 101 problems. And if somebody from a social service agency comes in and says I can solve one of those problems for you, I'm going to put up the red carpet for them.
I think that's my favorite thing of what we do, is to help be solution focused and help the community at large and the workforce.
Which just happened this morning with the clients securing that part-time job. We've filled in that gap for that lady and her wonderful business. And I think it's going to be a win-win situation.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing too, right? Like we've discussed is that we're working together to figure out, what are your needs, and we can sort of help figure that out as a conversation.
That job carving piece fits in.
That's the fun part of it. The really fun part of it.
That is the fun part.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, a lot of things we say are moot without actually talking about what the competitive advantage might look like for a business. We live in a competitive business environment, and we require creative solutions to some of those things. I wanted to pull in some information from Alemany and Vermeulen at the Harvard Business Review, articulating several points that strengthen our case for inclusive hiring. They had 3 things here: organizational culture, market appeal, and talent and retention. So for the organizational culture piece, 67% of job seekers in Canada consider an organization's D&I policies when choosing where to work, and that's via Glassdoor. I can speak from experience that I'm not from Medicine Hat originally. I'm actually from Edmonton, or Short Park, I should say. And the sort of newer generation of the workforce that's coming up really do value the diversity practices, right? We're recognizing more diversity amongst people every single day. And that it's so important as businesses that we are really looking at our practices to ensure that we are, providing a good place to work.
Absolutely.
So with that as well, it cascades into the market appeal. So 92% of consumers prefer companies that hire individuals with disabilities, and that's the discoverability network, right? We know that as various business sectors, there's lots of competition, there's lots of different places. So what can we do to separate ourselves from our peers and from the business peers is look at some of these other innovative ways.
And I think that the thing that comes out for this is one of the main points anyway, is that diversity inclusion means that everybody gets to show up the way they are, right? Everybody gets to show up at work and feel like they have a place to be. Everybody gets to visit the business and feel like they're represented in that business as well and supported to be themselves. I think that's a really important piece there.
And with that as well, talent and retention, right? There are 741,000 job seekers living with disability in Canada. They also have a 72% higher employer retention rate among people with disabilities, right? So for those of us who are involved in business sectors that have frontline staff, right, I think we know the reality of, turnover. You're looking at statistically higher retention rates. And so therefore less business costs associated with bringing on new individuals, bringing on people, training, right? And all of those different replacement costs that are required.
Absolutely.
Right. It's something to keep in mind. And we have some real example here of another place that's made it happen.
So I want to talk to you about the South Country Co-op. So currently they support 7 individuals who are accessing services through REDI. And 3 have celebrated their 5-year anniversaries already. That's hard to, that seems like, we talk about 10 years, 5 years. Yeah. So Kevin Wagner, the former grocery manager of 13th Avenue Co-op and the current food division manager of Co-op was presented with our Changemaker Award in 2023. So Kevin had actually started the inclusive hiring at Co-op that set aside in some out of the union positions for the individuals that we support. So these opportunities allowed individuals to come in and do tasks that were specific to what they wanted to do, facing shelves, bringing in carts, a little bit of customer service, and they're really much accommodated and supported through those roles. The gentleman that we talked about earlier was one of those individuals who is currently celebrating 8.5 years in the same role. And this is what Kevin had to say about him. We didn't give him the opportunity. He gave us the opportunity to learn what a truly inclusive and diverse workplace should look like. Anybody out there that shares this experience will tell you the same thing. I think Kevin really made a difference in that store. And the incredible part about that is he also advocated, and so now 2 South Country Co-op outlet stores are choosing to work with REDI as part of their inclusive employment hirings. Very successfully.
100%, right? And even to the testament that Kevin was recognized as that change maker in 2023. That's a little excerpt from the South Country Co-op website.
And he was also invited to be a panelist as part of the IDEA conference, Alberta Employment Push Network. And he was recognized through Co-op, through their larger co-op organization, because of this award and the work that he's done there. And he said that it did have an impact on his moving forward in his career.
Absolutely. And the co-op sees the benefit of the clients they've hired, for employees, people, if they've come like a family.
Yeah, they definitely, it's definitely a great partnership.
Absolutely.
We're starting to even see it too at other places, right? We've created partnerships with Mint Car Wash, and they look to expand their employment program. Doggos is another business. We have several businesses in the community that have worked with us quite successfully. So it's something to keep in mind.
And I think that turnover piece is big because, like we said, 8.5 years for this one individual. We have a lady that's been with Co-op for 9. The individuals that we work with traditionally do have long careers. The longest I've heard of was 21 years.
21 years. And most of our clientele actually are 5 years up.
5 years,
yes, 5 years going up.
So let's talk about the value to your organization. So think of who in your family, close network of friends, has ties to a disability. Think about your loved ones being represented in the workforce. Your organization will be gaining a reliable, hardworking, and enthusiastic employee.
Additionally, your organization will be promoting and facilitating diversity and inclusion in the workplace, as well as making a meaningful contribution to the community in which you live and work, which I think is important as well. Some of those community-facing organizations, like we've talked about, like the South Country Co-op, right? That's part of their ethos, right? And they've really tied that into what they want to do as a business strategy, and it's worked out extremely successfully for them, and the partnership has worked out extremely successfully too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's something to keep in mind as well, right? Medicine Hat, I've learned, right, as a person who's come from a really big city, right? It's a little big community, right?
Yes.
We might have 70,000-ish people around there, but really, right, there's many names in here that I recognize. There's many names that I recognize in other networks, right? So we're all tied in some way or another. So it's something to keep in mind too, that we're bettering the community, and in the way that we're bettering the community, we're bettering other businesoses and other sectors too.
And because it's this big little town, the chances of you helping someone that's your neighbor or a friend of a friend, by offering these opportunities, it's really a real possibility.
Yes.
I'd love to take some time too to acknowledge some partners that we've worked with here to make this presentation a success. So first and foremost, the Community Futures Entre-Corp Business Development has been instrumental. Amber, thank you so much for the opportunity. Like Amber alluded to earlier, she had the opportunity to come and sit and meet us at REDI and have a one-on-one conversation about what we do, and she really believed in what we were doing. So thank you for affording that opportunity to us, Amber. We'd also like to thank the Alberta Employment First Network, AEFN. We initially created this presentation for one of their events, and we wanted to recognize that they helped us in creating this framework. We'd also like to thank the Alberta government and Clayton for attending this presentation and helping us to facilitate a Q&A session. And then as well, we'd really like to thank REDI. Really, they give us the opportunity to get out in the community, and they give us the opportunity to have this platform. So we're very grateful, like I said, as job developers to be able to work there.
And to share values that are really important.
And our job is fun.
Our job is fun.
Our job is fun.
Absolutely. So
How can we work together? We would love to come and do presentations at your business companies or just take a tour of your work site. We're here even for questions or suggestions. And how would you want to be a change maker in our community?
something to think about, right? That is a very real opportunity.
Absolutely.
So thank you. And that concludes the start of the presentation. And now we can head into the question and answers period. I think you were going to take over here now, Clayton, correct?
Yeah, I'm just gonna unmute everybody for. Then I just gotta remember how. You know, it's always an issue. All right. I think we should be okay. I just want to say thank you guys so much. You hit all the feelers for me for sure today. I absolutely love it. And I think, I know as humans, we can, you know, we have our own bias and we can be judgmental for sure. And I'm excited to also share this presentation out to all the people I know and put it up online so if they missed it, because I think you guys do a really good job at showcasing how there's so much more opportunity than our own opinions of things and how we can have a really great working relationship with REDI and how you guys create so much value, you know, for people getting into the workforce. It definitely touched me when you're like, you know, somebody waiting to 20 to get a job. My kids had a job at 15. I had a job at a very young age. And yeah, I think it's eye-opening. I think you guys do really incredible work. And I'm so thankful that you guys came and presented today. And yeah, we'll definitely share this out. And if you're on listening today, I will put it live. I'll put the link to this whole webinar up on social media. So if you do see it, share it to anybody you think could get some value from it for sure. But other than that, I'll stop talking and let Clayton take over.
Thanks, Amber. Yeah, excellent presentation. Thank you so much. I recall back to my time when I worked in this field about 10 years ago, and worked as a job coach with people with developmental disabilities, and it was very eye-opening to see the ability of those individuals and where they thrived, and and each person just so different, but just would do their tasks and whatever they needed to do so well. So thank you so much for highlighting that and just how important it is, and that it is really an untapped labor market. So if there are any questions that anyone wants to raise their hand or even just throw it in the chat, I'll give just a few seconds for that. Otherwise, we do have some questions here to kind of get started with. Okay. So one question is, as a business, how would we start working with you, and what is the process?
Sorry, Amber, you just have your hand up. Is that?
Oh, you can answer Clayton's. I was just
Okay.
going to put my hand up.
So, the beauty of that is it's very simple. So to start working with REDI Works, it's a phone call to our office. So, or you can reach us at an email. So it's works@redi.ca. Thank you, Mark. You could reach out on our Facebook and Instagram channels and start the conversation. And I think that that's the biggest piece. We need to start the conversation. What are the needs of the business and how can we support that? So we would traditionally meet, come in and see what things look like, do a little survey, see what things look like within the organization. At the very least, have a sit down and a chit chat to see what your needs are. And then we would go forward with some brainstorming on finding out those essential skills that are important and looking through our caseloads to see who meets those essential skills and may be interested in that. Then the follow-up is like any other employee. And I think that that's a really important piece, that a business is hiring an employee. So there is an interview process, whatever their onboarding process is, we would support the individual that we're working with through that, and the business to any needs that they may have. And they're hired on just as everybody else is. So it's a very simple process because it's essentially the same thing that we do every day.
And we shortlist the number of candidates. We always put forth people who are interested and wanting to work in the field. of the business. We set up for success and the long-term and retention, I think that speaks volumes. And we support the clients through the interview process, through the job coaching, and we're also there for the business as well. The job coach is there for the client, the three of us, and sometimes you get all three of us, we're there to support the business.
Got a couple other questions here in the chat.
Amber's
Yeah.
my favorite question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Amber's question got in there, but I'll ask this one from Craig first. Is there a cost to the business to participate?
No cost to the businesses whatsoever. So what we do, we're supporting the individuals that are seeking the jobs. So if the business finds that there's a position that they'd like to fill and that they find that there's a successful applicant that's supported by REDI Works, there's no cost at all to the business other than just the wage of the employee. So they're hired on, like Robin said, as any other employee. So if you're working, like let's say for the City of Medicine Hat, right, you're hired on as a City of Medicine Hat employee. The REDI Works service that we provide is completely free, right? And it's measured against what that person needs, exactly what the business needs. So as Robin talked about in the presentation, if it's some quick job coaching at the start of an employment, and then it phases out into something a little bit different, or maybe it looks a little different in the following months, we provide that. And if there's a point in time that the duties change, or let's say a person finds themselves in a promotion or their job title changes slightly, we can reinsert some supports to ensure that that person is successful. And we're looking for just that. We're looking for success, right? So we never want somebody to feel like they're not doing a good job, right?
Absolutely.
We're making sure that we're working with them on all facets of employment to make sure they're successful. So
I think this is a good time to jump in with that. As far as the cost to the business, now there's some benefit added through the Ready, Willing, and Able program. So we also have a program called RWA. So if an individual comes to their boss stating that they need some support or has identified that they need some support in the workforce, person can also reach out to us as well to see if we can fit them into our Ready, Willing, and Able caseload and provide some supports that way. So the individuals that Ready Works supports, there's a spectrum, right? There's definitely a spectrum. So if someone would like to learn more about the Ready, Willing, and Able program, we'd be very much happy to provide that information as well.
And we work with the business hours. Some of our clients work evening shifts. We've had clients work awake overnight shifts. So if the business needs somebody from 7 to 10 p.m. at night, then we will accommodate those hours and supply the job coaching. So we are available all the time. And it's just a phone call.
absolutely.
So, okay, thanks so much for that. Now, this next question is, so if a business does want to partner with you, but they just really have no idea if they have any needs, how would they go about getting help identifying those needs?
Just give us a phone call. We'll come in, we'll sit down, like Robin had said, have a talk, see what other, duties that you kind of always push in your drawer that, you wait till the end of the year to finish, and we can usually carve out or design a job from there.
Okay.
Yep. That's a big piece, just the conversation. So reach out in any way, and then we can come in with fresh eyes and get curious.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we enjoy that.
On that note, have you had a business reach out to you that wanted to participate, but just couldn't find, there just wasn't really a need at this point in time that you felt like you could kind of fill? Or
I can speak to that one. Yeah, so absolutely, 100%, that does happen every once in a while. What we find though is that when the conversation starts and when we get a little bit more further into the discussion, that there are things that crop up. One great example that we've had more recently is the City of Medicine Hat has worked with us to bring on somebody to help assistance with cleaning after Tigers games. I think we know that the nature of some of the enterprises that we have here in Medicine Hat is that it doesn't all happen between Monday to Friday. Right. So they worked with us to, they had a standard of cleanliness that they wanted, but they found that it wasn't necessarily within the scope of the, what the organization does to put out a job that's just specifically that specific, or that's that narrow. And so they came to us and we talked about it and we said, what are your needs? And they said, well, we have some office cleaning that needs to happen. We have some, the smaller areas that aren't necessarily a priority for our regular staff or our full-time staff to do. And then we just simply need more hands on deck after games and after events. And we said, great, we have somebody that has a lot of cleaning experience, that has a lot of desire to work in that environment. And it's worked out extremely well so far. Like even at that point, they've received an hours increase.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. They went from 8 hours a week to 12 hours a week because they were doing such a good job and they're filling such a valuable niche for that business. And it may not have been necessarily feasible for them, for the City of Medicine Hat, to put a job posting out just for something so narrow, but at the same time, it was really critically important for them, and we were able to fill that need. So, and it all started within a conversation. It all started with how can we help, and then it went from there.
Yeah, and I think that you're right on that. Like the piece is that if we can talk about it,
Yes.
even if a business is unsure, but they have an interest in creating a partnership. So we can just start with a conversation. It's not a high pressure sales thing. It's about finding the right fit for the business and a right fit for the individual that we're supporting.
All right. Thank you. What type of employment opportunities are you looking for right now?
All of them. I want all of them. No.
Administration work, data entry, dishwasher, the dishwasher. I'm gonna say that one just one more time, dishwasher, prep cook.
Basic office administration,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If you've got any, paper shredding or, other general duties around an office is important. Basic cleaning tasks,
Yeah.
basic maintenance tasks.
Retail
Retail. I was just gonna say
Yeah.
retail.
Yeah.
and stocking shelves.
Yeah, stock and inventory are two things that
Love
come up
it.
frequently that are surprisingly difficult to source.
Yes.
So
But we have such highly skilled clients
Yeah.
that love it.
we had a local hardware shop
Yes.
here, and for years and years, we provided their inventory. So what would happen was they were finding that their counts were off year after year after year. So we had a group of individuals that had a very specific skill set towards numbers and data. And that's what they did. They came in, and in 2 days, we went through the entire store and did their audit, and it was less than 1% error in the counts. They finished in record time. So I think, unfortunately, that business is no longer with us, but I think some of those small businesses, there's a huge value towards that piece as
Yeah.
well.
They were, the manager was so impressed and shocked at how quickly and accurate it got done. It was on the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Robin and I assisted as well, and we weren't asked to come back.
No, we were told not to come back. Actually, we're not good at math.
No, we weren't.
This is before my time, so I can't,
Yeah.
I can't
No,
comment.
And they hired on a couple clients, long-term to continue doing that and cleaning the store. So it was a great opportunity.
Absolutely.
I'd also like to highlight too, a little bit more of an out of the box example too, where we had a sort of an interprovincial organization that was looking to do some print material, and they simply needed the print material organized into bundles that was compiled, right? Something as simple as, right, there were sort of pamphlets that needed compiled into arrangements of, I think it was 25.
Yeah.
But we did, thousands and thousands and thousands. Hundreds of thousands were done over a multi-year period. And it was so important because they needed to get compiled, they needed to get put together, elastic bands, organized, and then labeled to be sent out. And it was an extremely valuable employment opportunity for several
Absolutely.
clients.
And Canada Post really liked it too, because everything showed up with the right numbers and everything was ready to go.
And it
was a very
wasn't
successful
that-
partnership.
Sorry, I just jumped in here. It wasn't a set schedule. Like, they were sometimes worked 2 days a week for 4 hours and then worked again another week later. So there wasn't a set schedule, which we would consider more of a casual position on a call-in basis. And I think sometimes businesses get a little, well, I don't have a permanent part-time. We have a number of individuals that fit within the casual employment.
That love short-term employment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they loved that job.
I remember, I remember back to my time in this industry as a job coach, and that what a lot of people will label as hindrance or a disability is really a superpower for doing different kinds of tasks. Some people, just the nature of their superpower is really that they love repetitive tasks. Don't throw anything new at them, but they will just go in there for 4 hours and just knock everything out. And me, I think after about 20 minutes, I'd be like, okay, I got to do something else before I come back to this task. I can't do that. And those individuals love that kind of work and thrive. We do have a question from Darren. He's asking, what are the ages of individuals that you support?
Individuals supported by REDI are all adults, so we provide services to individuals 18 and over.
So the most important thing would be they have like PDD funding, or do you provide job coaching for people that like don't have PDD funding?
Yes, so that's the RWA program. So we have two streams of employment funding in ReadyWorks. One stream is our PDD, which is everybody is attached to as a case manager, and we have job coaching, everything attached. So, but if individuals are not PDD eligible, we have a program called RWA, or Ready, Willing, and Able, that allows individuals to come in, have a conversation, and then if there's employment, as soon as there's employment, we can work with them to provide that job coaching piece. We can provide the supports to help someone get transportation to and from work, help with the education, on and offsite coaching. Mm-hmm. So there are two different ways that it can go. So if a person is not PDD eligible, we still have a door for them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Great question.
Thanks. Okay. Another question. Do you offer any kind of subsidy or wage subsidy for employees?
Hard no. No. You know, I think I can speak for everybody on this, is that we work with incredible human beings, and there's no need to subsidize that wage. So there are models like that. However, that's not how REDI operates. We believe that the individuals that we support have talents, skills, and abilities that deserve equal place in the workforce. So we do not participate in those wage subsidies at all.
Yeah, I will add that businesses are free to explore that on their own if they'd like to, but
Absolutely.
we don't provide any direct information or contact on that. So
I do want to talk a little bit. You mentioned accommodations, how most businesses don't even require accommodations, and those that do, less than $500. If there is a larger accommodation that is required, do you provide assistance or direct to those kind of accommodations?
Yeah, absolutely. We like to consider ourselves a bit of an information hub with these types of things. So if there is something that crops up that is an accommodation that's required, we can think out of the box. We can help connect different funding partners. We can see if there's anything that's available through our funding streams. We can see if there's anything that's available within our network as well. So we're absolutely able to help with that if there's more accommodations that are required. And we have had some accommodations that are required with, ATEI, so the assistive technology that people have in order to do their jobs. We have facilitated that in the past. So it's just something that, again, starts with a conversation. Have a conversation and chat with us, and 99% of the time we'll be able to arrive at a solution.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
I do have a question about your RWA. If somebody that is not 18 years of age comes in, they don't have FSCD funding, family or FCS, anyway, FSCD funding, and so, but they don't have any kind of funding, but they're kind of inquiring about the RWA. Where would you refer them, or how would you kind of handle that if someone that was 17, say, came in and was looking for some assistance?
Yeah, so we have a woman, an incredible woman who runs like a triage piece. So if she's our community worker, and so someone can call to the office and ask to speak to Barb or Adele, and help with that piece. So we can also be a triage point. So if we're not able to provide those services, we can provide that through our community disability supports coordinator.
And send that person on the right way and right path.
So if they didn't fall into that, so we do not, as if we don't provide any services to individuals who are under 18. And in saying that, if somebody is getting ready to find employment, then potentially we can connect them with like the local YMCA employment hub. They sometimes have youth programming, McMahon, other community agencies, and we would run that through our community disability support services.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have the acronym in my head.
Thanks,
There we go.
Nancy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The acronym in my head. I have to think about what those stand for sometimes. So.
We are a hub of information and we
Yeah.
work really hard to offer information and solutions for everybody.
Yeah, there'll always be a warm transfer here.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. I'll go back to the chat, and if there are any, give another about a minute or so to, if there are any questions. Oh, Angie put that information for Barb Brady there, the name to call. But yeah, so if there are any more questions to come out of the chat, we'll go with those. If not, then I'll turn the time over to Amber in about a minute. While we're just kind of waiting to see if anything pops up, just want to say thank you again for the presentation. It's a bit of a walk down memory lane for me, and always good memories on for me when I think about my time in the field. It was an excellent experience, seeing all the ins and outs and the benefit it brought to both the business, the community, and the individual for finding employment and finding kind of a spot in the community. So with that being said, I'll turn the time back over to Amber.
Thank you, Clayton.
Thank you, Clayton.
Thank you, Clayton.
Amber, you're muted.
This is not my strong suit. I'm pretty sure I do that on every meeting. Thank you guys so much for your time and presenting and giving the community some more information about how you guys support the workforce. Greatly appreciate your time today. And I'm looking forward to sharing it out and having more people share it out because it's great information.
Excellent.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you, everybody.
Everybody,
Thanks.
thank
Have
you.
a
It was
good
just excellent. Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.